All right, everyone, get ready because we've got a heated debate to break down today. AnaKasparian and Cenk Uygur went head-to-head on the Young Turks, and let me tell you, it was intense. The discussion revolved around comedy, cancel culture, and whether the left is stifling humor. And let's just say, Ana did not hold back. Here's the situation. For years, there has been a constant debate over free speech in comedy. Some argue that comedians should have complete creative freedom since, at the end of the day, jokes are just jokes. On the other side, some believe certain types of humor are outdated, offensive, or even harmful. This is exactly where Cenk and Ana found themselves at odds. Ana strongly opposed censorship, making it clear that if someone doesn't like a joke, they can simply ignore it rather than trying to silence the comedian. Meanwhile, Cenk took a more cautious stance, acknowledging that in some cases, the left may have gone too far in regulating what can and cannot be said in comedy, and that wasn't the only thing on the table. They also delved into Dave Chappelle, Netflix controversies, the influence of woke culture on stand-up, and whether the audience should be the ultimate judge of what's funny.
I did not know that people care what comedians say. That literally came as news to me. I don't think as I said, the extreme left has done anything to inhibit the art of comedy.
Right.
I'm taking that back now officially. They have not.
They have. Wait, what? Okay, so he is all of a sudden backtracking on a statement he made back in April where he said that the left ruined comedy. Now look, the left ruining comedy, hyperbolic. That is a little bit ridiculous. But do some factions of the left try to police comedy because they take great offense to funny comedy? Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. But I agree with Jerry. Like, I get his frustration. So, like, whenever they're busting Kamala Harris or some corporate Democrat on some extreme left thing that they did, and we're supposed to be to the left of them, and we are, but on economic issues, on things that make sense, they're like, aha, and you agreed, said this. I never agreed to any of that. I'm on the record. Whenever the Democrats go too far, I go, no, not buying it. I'm not in favor of that. I don't think we should pay for undocumented trans surgeries while they're in custody. I don't know why we're doing that. They're not American citizens, etc. And watch, like leftists will get super mad about me saying that.
No,
right?
They're melting down right now.
Right. And so I never agreed to any of the extreme stuff, but there was a moment when I got so frustrated with the police abuse. I originally was against defund the police very strongly, and they got tons of pushback on that.
I remember, yep.
And for like a minute, I was like, God damn it, maybe we should defund the police. And then I regained my senses and went back to my original position. So I understand where Jerry's coming from. He got frustrated by the leftists, who you're right, do exist, who are like, you can't joke about that. And
Comedy has long been a focal point in cultural debates, and the recent clash between the Young Turks co-hosts AnaKasparian and Cenk Uygur highlights just how divisive the issue has become. Their heated discussion revolved around whether the left has contributed to censoring comedy, with Kasparian firmly opposing any form of censorship, while Uygur appeared to soften his previous criticisms of left-wing influence on humor. This debate represents a broader conversation in modern media. Should political sensitivities determine what comedians are allowed to joke about, or should audiences be free to decide for themselves? The conversation naturally shifted toward the role of cancel culture in comedy, with Dave Chappelle's recent controversies serving as a key example. Chappelle has faced continuous backlash over his jokes about trans issues, sparking protests, employee walkouts at Netflix, and widespread public debate. While some argue that his comedy has become overly provocative for the sake of pushing boundaries, others view his persistence as a form of artistic resistance against increasing censorship. Kasparian and Uygur's debate reflects this ongoing divide. Should comedians have the freedom to challenge societal norms as they see fit, or do they have a responsibility to adapt their material to changing cultural expectations?
And do you know how insensitive it is to joke about that?
Yeah.
Right?
The killjoys who could very easily just not go to a comedy show that they find offensive.
Yeah.
You know, it's called making decisions for yourself. And if you don't like the comedy, don't consume the comedy and move on with your life.
Yeah, and so, but
you don't get to be the arbiter of, like, what kind of comedy everyone else gets to hear.
Yes and no. So now, but I agree with Jerry that he did go too far, and I like that he's bringing it back. Okay?
All right.
So Because what he's saying is, look, guys, we got to read the room. That's our job as comics. And Bill Burr's been saying that. A lot of top comics are saying that now. So the momentum has swung from stop crying about people's complaints and do goddamn comedy, okay?
Well, that I agree with. Like, I also can't stand comedians incessantly whining about people being offended by their jokes. I get that it's annoying. I get that it's frustrating when people are trying to police your comedy. But also, let's not forget who has the power here.
Yeah, so let me give you an example of, in my opinion, where we went too far, where the comics went too far, right? But to distinguish between who's right and wrong. Anyway, so for a while, every comedy set was about, oh, they don't let me make this joke, but watch this. Trans people, you suck. I'm like, that's not a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'd watch there for half an hour, and guys who were enormously funny before, like Dave Chappelle, all of a sudden, like, doing nothing but like, I'm so bold because I say things that people hate. No, you have to actually include a joke, right? But I then saw the Ricky Gervais special, and I was like, look, I don't want him beating up on trans people again, like every other comic, and I heard that he did in his set, and I was super frustrated. Then I watched it, and I was like, no, that was funny. And he wasn't beating up on them. He was making a joke and then saying, but guys, of course we don't believe that. It's called comedy, right? And he shouldn't have to explain that. You should be able to get it from the way that he makes the joke, and I did. But the times being what they were, I appreciate that he even clarified, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought Gervais did it exactly right. Chappelle, as much as I respected him in the past, I thought was so unfunny for so many specials.
They turned into lectures. Like,
yeah.
Some of those specials did turn into lectures, and it's like, I get that you are frustrated at the backlash you're getting, but it's getting to your head too much, and it's hurting your comedy. Like, move on.
100%.
Move on.
So it then became like some sort of like debate between leftists and comics, and nobody was having fun.
100%.
So when Burr and the others and now Jerry are saying, no, let's get back to comedy and not worry about what the critics are saying. We're comics. So just do your comedy, and if it's funny, people will love it. And do you have to change with the times sometimes? Of course. People used to use the N-word in comedy all the time. They don't use it anymore because people are like, whoa, that's weird. Why are you?
Kasparian made her stance clear. Let the market decide. If audiences enjoy a comedian's work, they will support it financially, and if they don't, they simply won't. In her view, the controversy surrounding Dave Chappelle's Netflix special reinforces this idea. Despite protests and demands for its removal, the special remained available, likely because it was highly profitable. She argues that this is how cultural disputes should be resolved, not through outrage-driven censorship, but through natural audience engagement. Uygur, on the other hand, appeared more sympathetic to those who feel personally affected by certain jokes. However, he struggled to balance this perspective with his belief in free expression. At its core, comedy serves as both a coping mechanism and a tool for societal reflection. Throughout history, humor has been used to challenge authority, expose hypocrisy, and process difficult realities. Both Kasparian and Uygur acknowledged the importance of this role, but their disagreement lay in the extent to which comedic expression should be shielded from social criticism. While some argue that humor should adapt to changing social norms, others believe that comedy's true essence lies in its ability to challenge the status quo. This ongoing tension is what continues to drive the larger debate on censorship and artistic freedom.
Because our culture changed, and you got to change with that. You can't be like a cranky old 98-year-old comic going, I remember when we used to be able to say hateful things and people laugh. Now they're not even laughing at it anymore. Yeah, they're not. So move. Find something funny.
Okay, I remember, there's that NFL guy who's kind of cute and was married to Gisele Bündchen. What was his name?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, okay.
There's that NFL guy.
So they did a roast of him.
They did.
And it was great. Like, there were a lot of offensive jokes, and it was great. Sometimes you just want to laugh. You want to be able to laugh at yourself. You want to be able to just, like, take some of these issues that are heavy, serious issues and make light of them. Honestly, for a lot of people, the way that they cope with these heavy, difficult, terrible issues in the world is finding the humor in it or resorting to humor in order to cope with it. Like, there is an incredibly important role for comedy in today's society. And I just take issue with any group, whether it's leftists, people on the right, I don't care, trying to be the arbiters of what is and is not acceptable comedy.
Yeah, but both sides have to adjust, right?
I agree. Yes, I do. I agree with that. So if audiences aren't liking your comedy because you're going too far and you're not selling tickets to your shows, don't cry about it. That's when you have to adjust.
Yep.
But also, let's give comedians the space and the room to fail, okay? And let the market decide.
Yeah, and by the way, and if you don't, that's okay too. Who cares? So don't if Dave Chappelle thinks, oh, I was funny, and Cenk thinks I wasn't, I hate him. Okay, that's fine. No problem.
Ultimately, the debate between Kasparian and Uygur highlights a fundamental question: who decides what is acceptable in comedy? Should audiences have the freedom to choose what they consume, or should comedians censor themselves to avoid controversy? While Kasparian strongly supports a free market approach, Uygur struggles with finding a balance between artistic freedom and social responsibility. This conversation is not just about them. It reflects a larger cultural conflict playing out across the entertainment industry, media, and beyond. As society continues to grapple with these tensions, one thing remains clear: comedy, like all forms of art, will always be at the heart of ideological debates. So, where do we draw the line? Should comedians have the freedom to say whatever they want, or does society have a role in shaping what is acceptable? Kasparian's stance is straightforward: let the market decide.